Okay, looks like we're live. Thanks for all of you who came in last few weeks when I've been doing this. Episode 9, who knows? We'll see what happens, but going well so far. So why not continue? This is gonna be my first look at the lines. I've made them, but really just gonna be reflecting on what's out there right now. It is Thursday night, so games start tomorrow. So with midweek games, it takes a little while to get into them, but will be my first view, and hopefully this will be interesting. So starting in England, looks like Leeds hosting West Ham tomorrow on Friday, with pretty much every league in Europe playing midweek games next week. Now the Champions League and Europa League are over with. There could be some resting, which might be happening with some of those teams that are essentially playing 3 matches in a week, all within, I guess, if you count 4 within 2 weeks versus 3 for the other teams. I guess that's a little bit of a difference. You might see some resting for the bigger clubs, but it seems like all the managers are playing all their players and using their assets as much as possible, which I think is kind of silly why they're complaining about injury, because they're setting up their teams to really do what's happening. But anyway, so first one is Leeds and West Ham. Not really a huge fan of Leeds in their defensive kind of struggles. They really have to hold the ball the whole time and are attacking, but ultimately it's never a really good thing when you leave your back open, because it's hard enough to score that you just can't allow goals. They've done fairly well with that, but West Ham's a side that I think is really going to focus on playing defense and stopping them. Might give up some possession, but I think they're going to be prepared for a counterattack. Not sure about Mikel Antonio. Hasn't done much really for a month or so due to injury. And that limits what West Ham is able to do, but they seem to have figured out some things on set plays, on set pieces, and some corners. So could see them getting in with even a few chances against Leeds, considering how open they leave themselves trying to attack. Figured that West Ham would be a quarter of a goal underdog. It looks to be the number, and I'm interested in it. I think their defense is solid. It's going to make a Leeds side that likes to control the ball, but I think they need to in order to score. They remind me of Freiburg out of Germany, where they need to have a lot of shots to score, and I'm not sure they're going to get a lot of good ones against West Ham. So seeing a quarter, potentially having a draw be a winning bet at half your stake might be worth it on a West Ham side, especially at pretty much even odds right now on each side. Not even overall, but not leaning one way or another with the juice right now. Now that I've done 3 minutes on just one game, I'm going to try to go much faster than that as we go. Then we move to Saturday. Wolves hosting Aston Villa. Wolves giving a quarter. Aston Villa seemed a little bit cheap to me. Aston Villa hasn't gotten a lot of respect even after a really great start to the season. They've kind of come back to water always finds its level, per se. But I think their defense has struggled more than people want to talk about. Wolves, without Raul Jimenez, who I think it was a skull fracture, scary thing, and really crumbled after a mistake in their back line against Liverpool last weekend. I wouldn't hold 4-0 against them, but it does seem like when bad things happen, teams crumble in the sport. So that's something you need to think about. I'm not sure Kilman's the type that you can expect that to happen again. He'll probably be a lot better this week. I'm not a favorites better, though, so giving a quarter doesn't really interest me, and I'm not interested in the Aston Villa side at this point. Then we got Newcastle, who had another week off after a COVID outbreak. I'm not sure who is really got sick, if that was a staff thing, but they had their last match against Aston Villa postponed. We'll see what happens there. But based on full rosters, interesting to see only giving a quarter to West Brom, who I think is showing that they're fighting way above their weight, and I don't think they're going to spend much time in the Premier League. All you really need is a few wins to jump up the table, or maybe just one right now. But I think in order to deem yourself safe, I'm not sure that they're going to get one here. Newcastle would be the way I'd look, but again, not backing them as a favorite. Don't really have much faith in their defense or their offense really either. So probably a stay away for me. Then we get the big one of the weekend, the Manchester Derby, with United hosting Man City. I'm surprised by this number. I was thinking that Man City would be favored, but not by 3/4 of a goal. So they have to win by more than a goal to win a full bet on them, which is which is a lot, and especially in that rivalry. I know that it's generally a lot closer, though Man City's, I think, been pretty dominant in the league standings for years now. But to see United getting 3/4 of a goal, I don't know if the crowd is available. I'm not sure how they are with the COVID hot zones right now in the Manchester area, but it's a big number. Only way that you could look to play is Manchester United after a pretty disappointing performance in Germany and not moving on to the next round. It's certainly not the backing them at their peak of opinion across the globe. I think a lot of people are probably pretty down on United. So that's a sign and some interest there, considering Man City's. I don't know if they've been playing great to start the season, to say the least, but they've been winning the last few matches and starting to look like they're rounding into form. Their defense has been better, I think, this year, though that's, as I've kind of gone on record of saying, since these videos are basically records, it seems like Pep has been a little bit calmer and not as focused on going forward and winning 5-0 every match. In this type of match, though, winning by a goal, there's not a lot of safety in that, or thinking that Pep takes his foot off the pedal, because at best they lose by a goal and you're losing half your stake if you take United plus 3/4 of a goal. But you have to, I think, have some confidence in the United's team. Bruno Fernandes has been awesome, or Penandes as they're calling penalties. And I think if there's a spot to buy low on United, it probably is here. Hard to say because they fall behind every match. So they weren't able to come back. Well, they nearly did in Germany. They weren't able to and got knocked out of the Champions League. But I don't think that's a position like they're not giving up on the season by any means. So that'd be the side I'd look at right now. We'll see what happens and where we go, if that actually makes sense on potentially even becoming something that I would end up playing. It looks like last game on Saturday is Everton hosting Chelsea. Chelsea don't want to get in front of them right now. They're playing great. Defense is a lot better. Goalkeeper has been shored up, and the defensive back line has been a lot better. I think now that Thiago Silva is a little bit in better health. They've been resting him a fair amount. They haven't had to stress out over Champions League as they clinched a while ago. And Everton, I think, is going to have some trouble. Getting 3/4 of a goal, I think, is a lot for Everton. They're decent. They can score. Calvert-Lewin has been awesome putting the ball in the net. They've got plenty of offensive ability, but that might have also come against some of the bottom teams in the league. And we'll see how their defense holds up against players that are really expensive, even with Ziyech possibly missing due to injury. Moving to Sunday, Sheffield giving 3/4 of a goal is a big number for Southampton. I think their defense is a little bit playing with fire with a high line. Hasenhüttl, good luck pronouncing that. That's my last attempt on this one. Plays a high line, kind of very German type style defense. He's Austrian, so that I think makes sense. But it puts them in a big risk. I'm not sure Sheffield's the team to take advantage of that, but they are struggling at the bottom. I think one of the worst teams in the league, haven't won forever, so that's probably why this line is so high. I think it's the longest to start a Premier League campaign without recording a victory. But Sheffield was a decent side last season in the EPL. We're in the European hunt, I think, till almost the last day, if not the last day. But this season has not gone well for them. Danny Ings returning for Southampton had some scoring punch that I think they weathered, but they certainly need. And unless Sheffield's going to catch Southampton out on some sort of defensive mistake, I'm not really sure that you can count on them to score. So I'm not sure I'm interested in taking 3/4. I think Southampton is good enough to score here, especially with Ings coming back. But I guess if I had gun to my head, I'd play Sheffield, but that's not something I really want to do right now, though I think that there are some flaws in the Southampton side for sure. Crystal Palace hosting Tottenham, only getting 3/4 of a goal. I mean, Tottenham has been getting some pretty favorable lines so far compared to where they stand in the league. I think because a lot of people doubt them and don't think that they're good enough. And I think it's almost like they're taking it personally, odds makers of the market, based on how they disrespect Tottenham and they just keep covering and covering and covering. Was weird to see Kane playing in Europa League midweek today, Thursday, especially while they're up 2-0. I feel like they should have taken him out right away. Don't know why Jose's taking those risks, but ultimately Tottenham's playing really well. Hard to really want to be against them, considering they're very likely to give up more than one single goal. They have a big clean sheet streak going against much better offenses than Crystal Palace. So I'm not interested in messing with that one. The next is Fulham hosting Liverpool, probably a blowout. Liverpool has weathered the storm definitely with their injuries in the back line. Credit their whole organization, staff, everything for that. It's been pretty impressive. Not interested in backing Fulham against that. That sounds like a blowout waiting to happen. Next is Arsenal hosting Burnley. Arsenal hasn't scored in forever. Don't really see that anytime soon. But Burnley's not a really great offense. They're going to be pinned back and probably sitting back line as deep as possible, trying to keep Arsenal out, which hasn't been that difficult. But defending for 100 minutes is tough to do in a match. Catching a full goal is nice for a team that really can't score. It's going to be hard for me to avoid Burnley considering Arsenal's offensive woes besides Europa League play against Dundalk from Ireland or something like that, wherever the heck they're from. Certainly leaning the Burnley way. Don't really love it, but could see a 1-0 loss pushing, no harm done, get your money back and have 2 hours of I guess, entertainment for free. That could happen. Certainly leaning that way and see what happens. The line is the juice is pretty even at the moment. Another afternoon game on Sunday is Leicester hosting Brighton. Leicester, I think, has been pretty disappointing the last few weeks, starting with loss to Liverpool. Maybe that's a theme. I don't know. Liverpool keeps blowing teams out, apparently. But Leicester should handle Brighton. They're giving them only a half goal at home. I mean, they did just play today in Europa League, quick turnaround. But Brighton's been really struggling. Pretty tough match for them on Monday. It was a questionable penalty for sure that Southampton was awarded, which was originally called outside the box. VAR is just does what they want to do all the time and doesn't seem to have much reason, in my opinion. But anyway, got to take that. Brighton's been doing pretty well possessing the ball this year, but it hasn't done much for them. I think they're struggling in the table, and part of that is that they have the ball, and then whenever they lose it, they give up a goal, and that puts a lot of pressure on them. Even going ahead 1-0 on Southampton off a pretty ridiculous penalty. Offense hasn't looked great, even with a lot of possession. So might have it here against Leicester, probably not. And likely Vardy gets loose, gets one, and then I'm not sure Brighton will be able to catch up. So not a lot of interest there. And ultimately not a lot of interest in England's card this week, which is kind of surprising as playing FPL and focusing on it a lot, but maybe that's a good thing to not be so interested in it. Moving to Spain, Friday tomorrow we have Valladolid against Osasuna. Osasuna has been struggling. Started off playing really well defensively, and that has completely changed after a pretty good showing in La Liga last year. Valladolid, the defensive side, plays great defense and can get to you on a counter when they're looking like they're pinned back the whole time. And if they take a lead, they're really good at capitalizing that and making it bigger when the other team pushes forward. Giving a quarter, though, is an expensive thing for Valladolid because they don't really score. And a 0-0, which is a fairly likely result for them, is losing half a wager. Definitely not interested in, as an underdog better, of taking that side. Osasuna's got a lot to, I think, prove so far, as they've been losing by some pretty lopsided numbers. It doesn't so much matter here as they need to draw or win to cover a quarter. But not high on my list right now, especially at a very expensive with all the juice on the Osasuna side right now. Moved or balanced out a little bit. It might be interesting to back a side who needs to play well, a defensive side that isn't likely to score and is likely to give possession the other way. That's the part to be interested in. And Osasuna hopefully can't play as badly as they have been. At least I think that's what their management's saying at this point. So then moving to the next Saturday morning is Valencia hosting Athletic Bilbao or Athletic Club. Valencia is getting a quarter at home. I mean, Bilbao's been getting a lot of respect recently from odds makers, and I think paying it off for the most part. Maybe not so much last weekend, but if I remember correctly. Valencia lost a lot of players from a European, I think, UCL side, maybe Europa League last season. Had to sell a bunch of players off because they didn't qualify for Europe. The defense is really young. They've lost some players, attrition during the season even. Condobia, I think, leaving for Atletico Madrid. Their defense has been problematic. They can score, but it's it's hard to score enough to make up for a leaky defense. Bilbao is a defensive side as well, but they've, I think, been better going forward in scoring this year. Maybe it was a lockdown thing that their offense wasn't so good, but I think that's why they're getting a lot more respect here. Giving a quarter of a goal on the road is a lot for them, though. So I think I'd lean the Valencia way, but ultimately probably not looking to play it, as I probably circled Bilbao hoping to catch them as a quarter point or quarter goal dog. Next is Getafe against Sevilla. Getafe has been really struggling offensively. Very physical side, and they're good at that, but that doesn't put goals in the net, so that's a problem. Seeing them as a quarter point underdog is interesting for Sevilla, who I think has been fortunate to win a lot of their matches, seem to be trailing or putting themselves in bad positions with yellow cards, red cards in the first half or early in the second half, and just putting themselves in a lot of problems, which I think they survived to get through in the Champions League. That the group was pretty easy and there wasn't much challenge there. In La Liga play, they've been caught up a little bit, and I think have been struggling. Seeing them giving a quarter, and an expensive quarter right now on the road at Getafe, is interesting, even though Getafe has not been playing well. This goes towards a half. Seeing it a draw as a full unit win on Getafe at home is interesting. I mean, not expecting any sort of crowd advantage or anything like that, but travel matters. Sleeping in your own bed seems to matter. I'm not sure how to rate that, but Sevilla, I just feel what I've seen from them recently this season. They were better, a lot better towards the end of lockdown and winning the Europa League, but I'm not sure that I'd have any sort of money. I mean, I really like the Getafe side, leave it at that. Then Huesca hosting Alaves. Huesca giving a quarter goal when they never seem to win. Alaves is, I think, unbeaten at 6, I want to say. They seem to get a red card every match, but survive it, and that's a side that I'll probably be playing at a quarter of a goal against a side that can't win. Juice is pretty even right now, so no reason to jump in and wait till I think will be important, but I'll be watching that one, as I don't want to see it fall down to pick them, as I think that's where it should end up closing. But market does what it wants to do, bets against Alaves quite a bit lately, and that's been nice for me. Then the nightcap is the Madrid derby, with the Real hosting Atleti. Atleti playing great, ahead of everyone in the league right now. Look to be odds-on favorites to win. Real Madrid played really well this midweek, though it was a couple headers really that took the win completely out of the sails of Gladbach. Real Madrid deserved more goals than just 2, though. I think they hit the bar a couple times, had a couple good saves from Sommer. So they're starting to tick up a little bit. I think getting Benzema back is important. But there's not a lot to really love about them. Ramos back is big for their defense as well. Giving a quarter here is a cheap price, considering they have really gotten not any respect from the market against Sevilla and against Villarreal also. So giving a quarter to Atleti, where they're playing, I mean, Atleti seems like a no-brainer based on form. Real Madrid, though, is getting stronger, and it's a very juiced quarter right now. I think I'd pick them. I'm not interested in Atletico Madrid, but maybe some Real Madrid money comes in. I just don't really see that happening based on how the two teams are playing. As an underdog person, the Atleti side is interesting, but at a very juiced quarter right now, I'm not sure it's going to make it anywhere near my card on Saturday. Moving to Sunday, Sociedad hosting Eibar. Sociedad had to fight like hell to advance in Europa League. Maybe it was a tough group. I'm not sure how to rate AZ, Alkmaar from Holland, but they needed a late. I think they would have advanced anyway, because the minnow in the group ended up somehow getting their first win in the group stage with a stoppage time goal. But Sociedad fought really hard, put both Isaac and Willian Jose on the pitch at the same time after Willian Jose started, because they needed a goal late to try to draw Napoli to ensure that they were moving on. They ended up getting that goal. Willian Jose had a good one, controlled the match really throughout, but gave up a pretty incredible goal to Zielinski from Napoli. I wonder how much that's going to weigh on them for a Sunday 8 a.m. start. I mean, from playing Thursday in the early window, not a lot of time to get healthy. Eibar's been playing pretty well, 0-0 last weekend, I think it was Monday, after a win the Monday before against Betis. I think Eibar has been playing really well. It's a very juiced +1 right now, but that's certainly the side I'd look at, considering it's a big ask for Sociedad to playing well to win by such a margin against Eibar, who's been playing a lot better lately. That's certainly a side I'm interested for right now. Definitely don't want to lose +1 though, as that's a huge amount of insurance. I'm just not sure that it goes anywhere but towards 3/4 rather than gets to a better juice at 1. So it's something you have to think about if you want to make sure to keep that insurance and not pay a hefty price for it, even though it's pretty expensive right now. Next one on Sunday is Betis hosting Villarreal. Villarreal favorite on the road makes sense. Betis has been playing pretty poorly. Doesn't really seem to know what they're doing in the management or really with they don't know what their team is about. So not interested there. So certainly, as I'm going to save some time. Elche getting a quarter from Granada. Granada struggled today with, I think, a Cyprian side. 0-0 draw. Dodged a bullet, major bullet on like a 5-on-2 at the end as they were pushing for a goal to win the group. I'm not sure you take that much against them for that, but not great. And Elche has been a great moneymaker lately. They don't score much, but they're awesome at keeping the ball out of the net. 0-0 is a very likely result here, and getting a quarter at home, that would be enough. I mean, it's possible streak comes to an end, but I probably will be on Elche, as I think that they've really deserved, even with a 5'10" or 5'11" keeper. Badia has been great so far. And then the nightcap Sunday is Barcelona hosting Levante. Barcelona struggles. Bad week, losing to Juve and to Cadiz. And they weren't that competitive, honestly, especially if you consider how big of a favorite they were to Barcelona last weekend, or to Cadiz, excuse me. Giving a goal in 3/4 is a lot. Levante has not been playing very well, but that's a big number considering how troubling Barcelona's been playing lately. One of those where I didn't play Cadiz last week because I just Barcelona seems to have been kind of picking it up, but they're back into the doldrums. They seem to go up and down quite a bit. Some very lopsided victories, but then they'll also lose matches. And if you catch it that way, or even if they don't play well and kind of fit in between that, catching a goal in 1/4 or goal in 3/4 is a lot. Only losing half your bet at plus, if they lose by 2, is pretty significant. So definitely looking the Levante way, but we'll see what happens with the number. It's a pretty juiced 1 3/4 right now. Inexplicably, who's laying that price with Barcelona, but people are. Then moving to Monday, Celta Vigo hosting Cadiz. Cadiz off a big win. Coach came out and was talking about how Barcelona is not hard to play against. I'm not sure that's a great idea, but Celta Vigo giving a half goal based on a new manager who I guess has them playing defense. That was definitely a problem under the previous manager, but I don't think a lot changes that quickly. New manager bounces, what they say, but we'll see how long that lasts. At a very juiced half a goal right now. They definitely have talent on the side, but to go from firing your manager and playing so poorly to get him fired, basically, to then giving a big price to Cadiz, who looks like they're kind of turning around. Certainly questions about how they handle a big win against Barcelona, but they're a defensive side and they're going to make it really hard to score. Their keeper Ledesma has been really good. He had one really, really poor game against Athletic Madrid, but he's made it hard to score. And if it moves towards 3/4 of a goal, you're only losing half a stake if they lose the game. So certainly that side is interesting to me. Now we move to Germany. Tomorrow we have Wolfsburg hosting Eintracht Frankfurt. Wolfsburg with a pretty juiced quarter right now is interesting, considering Frankfurt took a lead on Borussia Dortmund last weekend and held on for a draw late. Dortmund was pushing pretty hard for a win. Wolfsburg, they can score, it seems, when the other team puts it on the plate for them, which is, deserves credit because not everyone can do that. They don't have a lot of out and out goal creators. They seem to be a set piece team over last season. They seem to do a good job of punishing the other team when they make mistakes. I'm not sure Frankfurt. Frankfurt's not perfect, but they're a decent club. They're I think middle of the tier, should be fighting for Europa League, maybe Champions League if things went really well. They've started off with so many draws, it's hard to see that happening. But a draw would certainly make some money here tomorrow. And at a quarter right now with pretty much even juice. If it moves towards a half, I think you got to like that side of a team who's really good at drawing against Wolfsburg, who's not very good at scoring. So I lean Frankfurt in that one. Then we go to Dortmund on Saturday, hosting Stuttgart, giving a full goal. Stuttgart's going to be without one of their major goal creators in the middle due to a yellow card suspension. Castro, I believe, had some craziness at the end of the last match, but beat Werder Bremen and have been pretty good and looked pretty impressive. Dortmund giving a full goal with all the juice right now. Very interested in the Stuttgart side, as Dortmund has had a lot of problems lately, to be honest with you. They've I think went behind against Zenit, came back to win miraculously in Champions League this week. Match didn't really matter. I think they'd already advanced, but ultimately there's a lot of questions with Haaland out. Reina needs to play, as he's the one that creates for him. Had an awesome goal last weekend, but they're not looking as strong as they were even last year in the lockdown, when they're getting a fair amount of criticism, getting really young, bring up Moukoko and all this sort of stuff. Stuttgart has been playing really well and looks like a big club that just got promoted and is going to stick around. So certainly leaning that way with a full goal of insurance. Next, Leipzig hosting Werder Bremen. Very impressed by how Leipzig started against Manchester United off of Bayern on the road. They had to hold on for dear life to advance and end up finishing runner-up in the group in Champions League. But deserved it with a great start, scored really early, and held on. And that's all you can ask for, especially going up 3-0. You knew Manchester United was going to come back and it was going to be questionable at the end. But would have been, I guess, more credit if they won 3-0 or 3-1, but that happens. They moved on in a really tough spot. Now they host Bremen, who has really struggled to score, and defense hasn't been very good. So that's a great combo for Leipzig, who's, I think, got some scoring issues potentially against the good teams, but against the bad ones, they can put the ball in the net. And they're going to probably have a lot of possession here. Seeing Werder getting a goal and a half seems like a lot, considering they drew Bayern, but I'm not sure that I'm that interested in them, as they're prone to giving up a fair amount of goals, as we saw 5 for Wolfsburg a couple weeks ago. And didn't really look great last weekend. Seems to be a bunch of guys, and Kofeld's maybe a little too attacking because he knows the offense isn't there, and that's why they gave us so many goals last season. I think they're not necessarily drifting into a relegation battle, but they're certainly playing the way that they did last year, and that's where they ended up finishing and survived to stay in the league, which is crazy, I think, based on how big the club is supposed to be. So Leipzig giving a goal and a half seems pretty normal. Certainly in the Werder way, just because it's such a big number. But Leipzig's been covering those and is prone to do that in the Bundesliga. Next, Gladbach hosting Hertha Berlin, giving a half of a goal after pretty emotional day, surviving, advancing in the UCL despite losing to Real Madrid. And I think it was the first time they've ever done that in Champions League in its current format. So pretty big deal. Major letdown potential here. Hertha's playing a little bit better. Defense has been kind of questionable and got lucky with an early red card to turn over a deficit and come back and win in the Berlin derby last week. Lean that way at a half based on emotional factors, and I think Hertha Berlin's offense can score. I wonder if what the deal with Cordoba is, 2 weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago now, hasn't come back, and that's concerning. Next is so lean the Hertha Berlin way, but we'll see what happens based on lineups and all that sort of stuff. Could see some people resting for Gladbach. They've had a couple pretty big matches in a row, and certainly a lot of emotions out there. Next is Freiburg hosting Arminia Bielefeld. Freiburg really can't win. Took a lead on Gladbach, but gave up a pretty goal to Alassane Plea, who couldn't seem to do that in Champions League during the midweek. But I think Freiburg will take a 2-2 draw with Gladbach, but ultimately we're in a position to do better. But they have a problem where they take a lead and they give up goals. That's just what they do. I think they've had a lead in most matches this year they've played, yet one win, and that was in the opener. So it's been a long time. This is one of their better chances. Bielefeld's been, I think, a little bit more competitive lately, but had a decent start, and then were really poor for 6-7 weeks or so. So now this is one of their chances to earn some points on the road. I think they see this as a big opportunity. And the line currently at a half a goal is asking Freiburg to do a lot, I think, based on how they've done this season. They haven't won since week one, squandered a lot of leads. They need a lot of possession in order to score. And they might have it here against Bielefeld, who's probably likely going to be really happy with a draw on the road. But the Freiburg defense has been pretty open. So certainly leaning the Bielefeld way at catching a half and at even money right now. Might close even higher than that. And I think needing Freiburg to win when they haven't won in so long is a big ask. Last one of the morning on Saturday is Mainz hosting Köln. I think Mainz is better side here. They've been playing better, being a little bit more defensive lately, and to cover up some flaws because they've got enough offense to go forward. Köln finally got a win in Dortmund still can't believe they did that. But so I'm not really interested. They've been one of the worst teams in the Bundesliga since the restart. Not interested in that side, especially at Pick'em right now, which seems a little bit cheap, even though all the juice is on the mind side. Looks like it'll trend to a quarter, and that's probably a fair line for this one. Union hosting Bayern Munich. Munich's been able to rest people. Neuer did play midweek, but they've been able to rest people, and defense has been a question lately. And Union has, I think, played better or probably exceeded all expectations this season by far. Made some offseason moves after staying up, which was their main goal last season. Made some moves to bring in some attackers. They've done fairly well. We'll be missing a player to a red card suspension. I think it's Friedrich or one of the mainstays. So that'll be a question. But this is going to be a big number. Bayern giving nearly 2 goals on the road is huge. But they're prone to win games by a lot of goals. Going to have to see what lineups look like and see if you really want to hold your nose and get in the way of the Bayern machine, which really just, even on pretty quiet chances, seem to score a ton of goals. And I'm not sure that I necessarily want to do that, but definitely leaning the Union Berlin way. We'll just see if I have the stones to play it. Then Sunday, Augsburg hosting Schalke. Augsburg's been a defensive side that's not played very good defense. Their offense has been basically Daniel Caligiuri trying to tie a game when they've been behind. And he's done fairly well at that, but it's not really a sustainable offense, especially when your defense is conceding more than a goal a game. Schalke is a disaster. They're playing better than they were at the beginning, but that's not saying much because they were so bad. They're destined for relegation, I think, based on really tough financial situations, but they are a side that I somehow like this week, just based on, I think, being a lot more anti-Augsburg, but also because Schalke is fighting, and I think they're kind of learning how to play a little bit better. Their keeper missed the last match due to injury, had to fill in, who I think did okay. There's definitely some blowout potential here, considering how poor Schalke is, and they struggle to score. But catching a half goal from Augsburg, who's not playing well, is a big number. Didn't really love playing Augsburg on Monday against Hoffenheim, but Hoffenheim had been basically handing money away to their opponent each week if you had bet against them. So it happens. Sometimes playing the streaks, they end up blowing up in your face. But certainly leaning the Schalke away, getting a half. We'll see if that makes it into the card, though, on Sunday. And then Leverkusen hosting Hoffenheim, 2 Europa League teams that have advanced and I think won their groups today. Leverkusen giving 3/4 of a goal. They're pretty banged up. Hoffenheim has not looked great. Kramaric is slowly getting back to form. Had a good assist on Monday. Not interested in fading Leverkusen, as they're definitely going to score a goal, and likely more than 1, 2, 3, something like that. Probably in the 2 to 3 range. And Hoffenheim's going to need to score with them, which I think is going to be tough. But the Leverkusen defense does play a high line and sometimes is a little bit able to be exploited. So not sure that I'm going to do a lot there, but it should be a great game to watch. Lots of goals potentially. So then we move to Italy. Friday, tomorrow, we have Sassuolo hosting Benevento. Sassuolo giving 3/4 is, I think, right where I pegged it. Not really a big fan of Sassuolo lately. I thought they were fortunate to have a red card on their opponent this week or the past weekend, and it kind of set them up in a position where they could actually play some defense. I'm not sure that they play very well, as they were still in a couple rough positions against Roma and barely survived with a goalless draw. Not interested in Benevento, though, who I think is Not able to score very much, and Sassuolo can win by a lot of goals if their offense is playing. It hasn't done very well recently, so I guess if I had to lean one way, it's at the Benevento side getting 3/4. That looks like it might be moving towards a full goal by the time the game kicks up tomorrow. Early one Saturday is Crotone hosting Spezia. Pick'em, which I think is a little bit flattering to Spezia, as I thought at least all the juice to me, like Crotone side, or maybe -1/4. Two relegation sides. I don't really know a ton about either of them, so I'll skip that one. Torino hosting Udinese, who's playing a lot better lately and is the favorite at Pick'em, but all the juices on the Udinese side, and should be, I think. Lazio at home against Verona, giving a full goal is a lot considering how Lazio is playing. Against 10 men, nearly didn't qualify out of Champions League to Bruges. Thanks to the crossbar, I think, more than anything, especially after taking a 1-0 lead. Lazio's, I think, got some problems, certainly not playing like they were before the restart or before lockdown last season. Verona's going to play a lot of pressure, high pressure. Getting a full goal of insurance is a lot, but they're going to take risks, and you got to be prepared for that because Lazio certainly can make them pay for that, but might end up squeaking out a goal on their own side. And Lazio hasn't been playing well, so leaning the Verona way, get a full +1, pretty juice right now. So I'm not sure I'm interested in it, or it'll end up making the card. Moving to Sunday, Cagliari hosting Inter. Inter should be super pissed, out for blood. Cagliari has not been playing well at all. So not interested there. Napoli hosting Sampdoria, giving a 1.25 is a pretty big number considering Napoli just played today. Had a tough one, took one really, really good goal from Zielinski, as I mentioned already, but didn't do anything really for the rest of the match. Kind of a big number to get Sampdoria, but Sampdoria is pretty inconsistent, so I'm not sure I want to mess with that one. Bologna hosting Roma, getting a half of a goal. Seems a little low to me, actually. I think Roma started off the season pretty well, looked pretty deep, and then has kind of sputtered a little bit lately. Dzeko hasn't been healthy and hasn't been that impressive, but I don't think Bologna is enough for me to want to get involved there, even as a home dog. Atalanta hosting Fiorentina. Atalanta with crazy stuff with Gasperini potentially trying to resign, the board not accepting his resignation and having him coach. Major performance against Ajax, which is pretty impressive. Winning in a match they just couldn't lose, but still getting a win was significant, and I think it showed their defense could show up if they really thought about it. Fiorentina's defense has not shown up much at all this season. A lot of people expect them to be better than they have performed. I think that's goes without saying. But catching 3/4 of a goal right now at Atalanta with all their turmoil is interesting. Papu Gomez and I believe Illich just didn't play last weekend as of argument's sake, because with Gasperini that led to the resignation offer. So there's not a lot of good things flying there, and sometimes the dressing room can be a big problem in any sport. So definitely leaning the Fiorentina way, see what happens with this number. It could drop significantly if some people are announced out, but Fiorentina can score and they have some offense, which fits with an Atalanta game. Might be a high scoring one though, which would make any sort of 3/4 of a goal or +1 less important, as it could be lopsided with lots of goals going in, but they could be Fiorentina's at the same time. Genoa hosting Juventus, catching 1.5. Juve's got to feel pretty good about the pacing they put on Barcelona this week. Controlled that game from start to finish. Certainly believe they could do that to Genoa, who's been really bad for years. AC Milan hosting Parma. Parma plays pretty good defense, and they're going to make it hard on Milan to score. Getting 1.5 is a big number. Definitely lean the Parma way. Not sure about Zlatan if he'll return for this one, but even if he did, he's a big part to their offense, key cog for sure. Shout out Enrop. But Parma is likely going to be in my card at a 1.5. As I like them, I think they don't have much offense, but they're a long ball, and they seem to Gervinho seems to find the net whenever he has an opportunity, which is all you can ask for. So then that moves to Tuesday. So that's done for Italy. So last one we'll go to France. We have Saint Etienne and Angers tomorrow. Angers pick them. But all the juice really on the Etienne side. Andre's been playing pretty well. I think got unlucky with a pretty poor result that didn't reflect how they controlled the game against Lyon, losing 1-0 with the ball the whole match. certainly that'd be the side I'd look at. I'm not sure there's enough there for me. Get the League Two games out of the way. So Saturday, Marseille hosting Monaco. Thought it might be the case. Marseille finally got their European play over with. They've been playing really well in France, but didn't really deserve any sort of moving on to Europa League and didn't get it. Seeing Monaco being favored on the road here is surprising. I thought that they might be a dog, and that'd be interesting as I wanted that side, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm not really sure I'm that interested in Marseille, only at Pick'em at home, even with all the juice on the opponent on the way side. Lens hosting Montpellier, another Pick'em. A lot of close games, I think, because French teams are pretty huddled in the middle, bundled in the middle, whatever. Montpellier being the side with all with all the odds right now at plus 101 on BetOnline. A little bit if that somehow ticked to a quarter. Lens played pretty well last weekend for me, but I think Montpellier is the better side if it comes down to it and everyone's playing. Certainly want to look that through. Early one Sunday is Nice hosting Rennes. Rennes been awful. Nice fired their coach, and some people wonder why they did that. They've been struggling with defense ever since their center back mainstay hurt his knee, I believe. But catching a quarter at home is interesting because Rennes can't win. They have been pretty bad, losing to Krasnodar, losing everywhere they go. So certainly leaning the Nice way, even with all the turmoil, the new coach and things like that. They're, I think, the better side. So catching a goal or a quarter of a goal at home seems like a pretty nice thing, even though all the juice is on their side right now. Lorient hosting Nimes. I thought it might be a half goal, only giving a quarter, a little low, but Nimes looks pretty bad. Doesn't want to make them, or don't want them to make my card. Brest had pretty well last weekend, gave up a late goal to Bordeaux, so they didn't escape with the draw. Their quarter goal favorite at home against Reims. God, pronouncing French is tough. Anyway, probably a fair line. Not sure I want to get involved there, as Brest has been playing pretty well. Nantes giving 3/4 of a goal to Dijon is interesting. Dijon at the bottom has not been playing well, but have shown some flares, some flurries, whatever you want to call it. They haven't been as bad as the bottom side as you would expect. Nantes has not been great. So giving 3/4 of a goal seems like a lot for them. Probably not something you want to touch unless it gets to a full goal. Doubt it gets there, but certainly would look the Dijon way if I'm going to look. Strasbourg giving half a goal to Metz seems like a really big number. Metz didn't play very well against Lyon, left their back open, I think, trying to attack after a missed penalty. Really could have put them one up and maybe changed the game, but Lyon found a lot of space and were pretty good. Strasbourg has had real problems scoring until they acquired I think a player from Metz, so he's playing against his old team, and that's probably going to mean something. And Metz has certainly outperformed what they expected. Now they might have a center back who was red carded late for what seemed like a incidental elbow when he was going up for a header trying to score. So it wasn't like he's trying to punch the guy in the head, but got a red card, got ejected. Ref didn't even seem to see it. Wonder if they can rescind a red, but if not, then I think they're down their captain, which might make sense why this line's a lot bigger. Currently half a goal and pretty juiced, but that's the side I'd lean. Lille hosting Bordeaux off of a match today that they didn't do enough to win the group in Europa League, unfortunately for them. Bordeaux's their defense has been decent, but ultimately that's kind of going to determine how they do. They either keep a clean sheet or they give up a bunch of goals. And against a team like Lille with a lot of offensive players who are playing pretty well right now, lots of goals seems like an option here and the more likely one. But catching 3/4 of a goal is a lot for Bordeaux, who's just hard to really know what you're going to get with their defense. And then the big one on Sunday is PSG hosting Lyon. PSG with the crazy anti-racism postponement of the game to the next day. That's one day less of rest considering Lyon's not playing in Europe. So, and Lyon's been, I think, one of the form sides in France right now. Catching a full goal from PSG, that's, I think, what I was hoping for. It's a big number. Not really rushing to play it either because PSG seems to just always get bet as they should in that league because they win every year, it seems. But Lyon's much better rested. They weren't able to sell their best assets, so they're still pretty healthy. Awar returned the last 2 weeks and playing well. Depay had a great goal last weekend. And some of the younger players that they bought from younger sides or have developed are playing pretty good offense. Certainly leaning Lyon way, getting a full goal of insurance. I'm not sure I'll be able to pass that up. So that's the European leagues. Thanks for coming in. I seem to always do this in about 45 minutes. So hope that was valuable or useful. Feel free to send over some questions and feel free, or please follow me on Twitter at @thereal_G Warner, because I set that name a long time ago and couldn't get a different one. So thanks for joining. Talk to you soon. Good luck this weekend. Adios.